Good afternoon, everybody. How are you guys doing? Good? Is everyone having a great Tableau conference? All right, anybody having a bad Tableau conference? Keep your opinion to yourself. I don't want to hear it. All right, just for my own knowledge, how many first-time conference participants? Wow, it's like the whole room. Welcome. All right, 2 years? Okay, that's 3 years? 4 years? 5 years? Anybody more than 5 years? Ooh. How many, what number is it? 6? Excellent. Anyone beat 6? All right, you guys should be up here presenting, but next time. So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jim Webb. Welcome to this session on updating your analytics strategy. I appreciate you guys sharing a little bit of your Tableau conference with me, so thanks for coming today. I am a senior practice manager for Tableau, and what that means is I get the opportunity to work with lots of our customers to help put together custom training, consulting, and support packages to help you all be more successful with what you're trying to do with Tableau. And before joining Tableau as an employee, I was actually a Tableau customer myself. This is my 5th Tableau conference. It's my 2nd as an employee. I used to lead a sales analytics function for a large consumer goods company. And in addition to several other large-scale projects, one of the big things we did is grow a Tableau deployment from about 25 desktop users to over 1,000 folks on our server by the time I left. So I've made a few mistakes in analytics strategy. I hope you guys get a chance to learn from those and avoid the problems that I've had in the past. And just by getting to know you guys a little more personally, I'm a triathlete in my spare time. So if you're looking to try to find me while you're here, a great place to run into me is on the data run. I don't know if anyone has made their way down to the data run in the mornings. We meet here at the lobby of the Mandalay Bay every morning at 5:45. It's a great place to go and get a foot tour of the Strip, meet a couple new friends while you're here, and burn off some of the calories from the conference food that I know we're all enjoying so much. So what we want to talk about today really comes from our Tableau Blueprint. And I hope you guys are all familiar with the Blueprint by this point. But the Blueprint is something that we pulled together by looking at all of our customers and saying, we have customers who are doing really great things with Tableau, who are really successful in the way that they're deploying. And then we have folks that are still struggling a little bit, trying to learn new ways of doing things. So we went through many interviews with customers. We talked about what's working and what's not working, and we started grouping those things together and pulling together some repeatable processes for things that everyone could go do and put in place in their own business to be successful with Tableau, and we call that the Tableau Blueprint. It consists of 3 main work streams. First is the agility of your deployment, your own ability to adapt and change as your Tableau needs adapt and change. Your analytics proficiency, so the capability of not just those that create data or visualizations for your team, but the overall readiness of your team to adapt and become a data-driven organization. And the last part of that is your user community. So the folks that actually go out and build some of your visualizations, bringing them together, giving them a chance to share best practices, to learn what's working, to adopt strategies from other parts of the organization. But today, we're going to start at the front end of this blueprint journey. And we really want to talk about pulling together the strategies that's going to help guide you on the rest of this Tableau deployment. It's really about asking the questions, what am I trying to achieve with data? And your strategy should help inform everything after that. The next thing we're going to talk about is building teams. And it's identifying those individuals that are going to help you on this journey. And that means everyone from executive sponsors to the individuals who help us access data and create visualizations, and the many, many people that live in between. And lastly, we're going to talk about how we discover and prioritize some specific use cases. Once we've identified a strategy and we start to build out the teams that are going to help us get there, some of those use cases should start to come to life on their own. Now, I told you I'm a triathlete. So we're going to talk about these 3 steps today like the 3 sports of the triathlon. So for those of you who aren't familiar, in a triathlon we have 3 things we need to do. We have to swim, we have to bike, we have to run. So for us, that's going to be our strategy, our team building, and our initiatives. And the swim is what scares most people when you talk about a triathlon. And strategy is much the same way. We all look at the swim and say, boy, I'm not a great swimmer. Well, there are few organizations that have a strategy, that have a true strategy for analytics. So the good news is, while there are some people who are great at this, and they're going to get a little bit of a lead on us here, most of us are all together trying to figure this out. So it's important to remember that we're all kind of middle in the pack, we're all working through the strategy together, but the other important part to remember about this step is if we don't do it well, we might drown. So the next part is the bike. And building teams for your analytics strategy should be like muscle memory. You guys build teams for lots of things within your organization, whether it's deciding on new product launches or finding quicker ways to reduce time and processes. You probably even have a team for the party planning committee. So the great news is building teams for us is just like riding a bike. We do it all the time. We just don't do a great job of doing it with analytics. Now, the last part of our journey is the run. Now, if we've trained well and we've had a good day in the race, this is the spot where you get to sprint across the finish line to glory. But if we haven't trained well and prepared in these other steps, this is the spot where you slowly limp your way through your local park and you're dumping cups of water on your head while your friends go, hey, you look good. So we want to avoid that situation. We want to all be sprinting to glory. And one last thing I'll talk about with our triathlon analogy. This is Mirinda Carfrae. Mirinda is one of the sport's great champions. And Mirinda is really fond of a saying that in any triathlon race, one of 2 things is going to happen. You're either going to win or, that's right, you're going to learn. So we're going to talk about what winning looks like in those organizations that are doing a great job in these steps. And we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to still be learning on this journey. All right, who's ready to jump in the water? Okay, let's get into strategy. There go my people. I must find out where they are going so I can lead them. How many of you have an analytics strategy that sounds a little bit like this? Oftentimes when we build analytics strategies, what we do is we say, oh, let's go out to the analysts. Let's find out the data sources that they're using. Let's find out the reports they're publishing. We'll build a process around that. Well, building a process around what you're doing today isn't going to help you change into a more data-driven organization. Surely there are things that you are doing in your business today that you're trying to achieve. I'd ask you to think about some of those things in your line of business, some of the goals and objectives that you have, the things you try to do in an everyday that are on your goal sheet for a year. Now, the good news is I'm not going to ask you to share it with your neighbor. It's not going to be one of those presentations. You get to just think about it to yourself. But think about those goals that you're trying to achieve and how data can complement those goals. What we want to do with a good analytics strategy is start with data and work backwards to what we're trying to achieve as a business. Because becoming more data-driven doesn't just mean adopting new data technology. It means changing ways of working. So what do we have here? Anybody want to shout this one out for me? What do you see? Roadmap's not clear. Anything else? What's in front of the car? We have a dashboard. When I talk to people about their strategy for Tableau, they always say, oh, we're going to publish some dashboards. What's the problem with a dashboard? A dashboard, a literal dashboard, was built to be ignored. It's not safe for you to drive down the road all the time looking at that dashboard. So it's no wonder that dashboards as an analytics strategy often fail. See, no one ever found $1 million insight on a dashboard, and that's because if it's my job to be driving this car, I'm just trying to get from point A to point B. I'm not looking at the dashboard. It's not part of what I do every day. Because what do we do when we build a dashboard? Well, we put every fact and figure, every light, every bell, every whistle on that dashboard. And I'm not that mechanically savvy. I don't know about you. But if a light goes off on my dashboard, I don't know what to do to fix it. I just take my car to the mechanic and ask them why there's a blinking yellow light that looks like the car sliding off the edge of the cliff. I don't know why we needed a light to tell us that we were doing that. But the point being, if you have an analytics strategy based on dashboards, you probably experience similar challenges. You have folks that will call up an analyst in your teams and say, the KPI has turned from green to red. I need you to explain what's wrong for me. So what's important is we want to start with the end in mind. And there's really two parts to this. I had the opportunity to take a class with Willie Peterson, the former CEO of Tropicana. And Mr. Peterson was fond of saying that the output of strategy is unity of action. Unity of action. We need to think about those things that we want people to do in their everyday lives that are different from what they do today. Whether that means they're going to pick up the phone and order more inventory because they see demand increasing, or they're going to call a new sales lead who's promising for them. Whatever that might be, we need to think about the physical actions, what people will do that's different from what they do today when they're in a more data-driven state. And the other piece of this is we have to have some clear outcomes so we know what good looks like. And I don't mean arbitrary facts like sales increased 3.4%. We need to think how we're going to measure the effectiveness of analytics and see people behaving in a new way. And in this way, we start driving real action-based change from our data strategy based on what we want people to do. The great news about this is Tableau can help. So if you haven't been exposed to the Tableau Blueprint, part of our Tableau Blueprint is what we call the Blueprint Planner. And this helps ask lots of great questions about your organization, the specific initiatives that you're trying to achieve, the challenges that you're facing in becoming data-driven in these initiatives, and then helps you start putting together some Tableau goals of how you're going to overcome those things. So Blueprint Planner is a great place to start as you map out a strategy for analytics going forward. So let's sum up a little bit about this strategy. First, we need to remember to start with business objectives, those things that we're trying to do as our overall goals. Next, we want to create that unity of action, thinking about the things that people will actually do different in their lives when they become more data-driven. And lastly, we want to make sure that we have a measure of success so that we know when we got there. Now, I told you I'm going to talk a little bit about what winning and learning look like. So for those teams that are winning, it's clear to individuals what they need to do to be successful. So as a great example of this, we work with a retail customer that has thousands of stores all over the United States, throughout the world, frankly. And one of the things that they were trying to achieve is bringing in more shoppers through the use of seasonal and promotional items. So think about things like Halloween candy or Valentine's Day cards. So they want to attract more shoppers to the store, and they want to increase transactions on these types of items. But when you try to put together a plan for these things that are popping in and out of distribution in a store, it's difficult to put together a one-size-fits-all plan for thousands of outlets that all have different layouts and different consumers. And it sure would be great if we could get our store managers in all those locations to understand what's working and what's not. So they created a really simple Tableau visualization on a mobile device that was a simple store layout, something the store manager knows really well. That store manager is in that store every day. They know the traffic pattern, they know where people tend to congregate and how people move through the store. And then they overlaid the performance of those items and where they were placed. So they could see things that were performing well that might be out of the traffic pattern that would be good to pull up to a more prominent location, and the things that were not doing so well that didn't need to be so easily accessible. But in this way, they took one of their key business strategies and made a simple data visualization that was easy for their store managers to understand and created immediate action. They knew what they needed to move and where they needed to move it. Now, for our organizations that are still learning, data exists, but it's not clear what we should be doing with it. In this example, our store managers had all of this data available to them for years and years and years, but they weren't taking the right types of action until we made it simple and intuitive. All right, we're going to get on the bike. Now, I like to say that Tableau is 50% software, and it's 50% a state of mind. Tableau is all about the belief of people like you and me and the 18,000 other of us who are gathered here this week that all believe that data helps make people's lives better. It makes people's jobs easier. It makes us all more productive. And we have been great at growing Tableau through the efforts of passionate individuals who share the Tableau message with their coworkers and counterparts and teams. But as we start to scale up and become more data-driven organizations, it really demands that we start taking a team approach to analytics. At Tableau, we talk about being all in. So our sales leader, Dan Miller, likes to use an analogy about a crew team in a boat, and if everyone doesn't pull in the right direction at the right time, the boat doesn't go forward. But I don't know much about boats, and I know a little bit about bikes. So I know when you're training on a bike, it really helps to go out and ride with a team of people, just like these guys are doing on the screen here. Because if you're the one up front, it's really hard work. You have to take all the wind resistance, you have to set the pace, you're the one who has to actually pay attention to where you're going, and everyone else gets to come along for the ride. But the great part about this is you don't have to do it all yourself. You do it for a few minutes and you allow another strong rider to come in and lead the team. And our analytics strategy should be the same way. We should start leveraging the strengths and the knowledge and the experience of all of the different people within our organization. If we bring all of these people together and take turns with what we all know about analytics and what works and what doesn't, we all get to move faster than any of us could on our own. And the other important piece, if you look way in the background back there, you see the team car. Now, a team car is there to bring you extra water bottles or a spare tire if you get a flat. And that's kind of like our executive sponsor when we put together an analytics strategy. They're there to provide overall guidance, set some goals for the team, and bring us some formal resources for how we're all going to work together. So as you start thinking about who's going to be part of your team, you've probably got lots of questions. Who's going to help me with data? Who's going to own preparing visualizations? You guys can probably think of dozens more than what I've put up here on the screen. But what's important is we start asking ourselves some of these questions and set some standards for who is going to help us in this analytics journey and what their specific roles are going to be. So I'd ask you, start thinking about the people who are involved in your analytics journey today and who might be able to help you as you move forward in the future. Because if we don't do this, we see one of two things happen. Either we're going to go down that traditional BI path where you have a handful of people that have access to the data, and they're the ones that receive the requirements and build out the dashboards, and one day they come down from the mountaintop and say, "Behold, I bring you the KPIs. Kneel before the corporate reporting." And the other alternative to that is we involve everyone. And we create what we like to call self-service analytics. But we let everyone get onto the server, and it's probably at the wrong time for their experience level. And rather than create self-service analytics, we create do-it-yourself analytics. So rather than a really great resource for data and information, what we end up with is a tangled ball of knots of data connections and extracts and dashboards and reports and calculations and metrics, and no one can make sense of any of it. So what do? They rebuild it again for themselves. And before you know it, we're not creating a data-driven culture, we're just creating data-driven individuals. So the answer is we want to be somewhere in between. It's important that we have strong processes and governance. And it's also important that we allow everyone to express their creativity and ask and answer their own questions. So again, I encourage you to turn to the Tableau Blueprint. We have lots of great examples on different ways to do this. I'm going to walk through one org chart with you that we propose. It doesn't mean it's the right answer, and it's sure not the only answer. It's probably not the only answer for your organization. You probably have different ways you need to lay out data for different use cases or lines of business. But this is just one way to think about it. So what we want to start with is some kind of a steering committee. The people that are going to set direction for what we're doing. These are the folks that are going to help us with that business strategy and what we want people to do. It probably needs to involve some folks from the line of business who can identify those actions we're looking for users to take. It also needs to involve IT partners, those folks that can bring us resources, help identify data, tell us what platforms are available to use. And for one line of business, we might have several business leads. So there are several different actions that we're actually going to go out and deliver. It's not necessarily practical for all of them to understand the total vision of what we're trying to accomplish. So that's where we have an analytics community of practice. Some of you guys might call this a center of excellence or center of enablement. I like the phrase community of practice. It's like practicing law or practicing medicine. You're always getting better and improving at it. So you have that community that's informed by your steering committee of the things that they're trying to accomplish, but they can bring to that discussion things like corporate standards, the way we look at revenue versus the way we look at profit. Corporate color palettes, the way we display metrics so that a user can more quickly start getting to insights from the analytics and spend less time trying to decode how it was built and what everything means. And that community of practice should have members that sit within each of those business leads that can help work with business analysts for the specific content that's built and help review that before it gets published and promoted so that there is consistency within our organization. Like I said, you guys will have different needs for different use cases, but this is just one way to think about it, and Blueprint provides you lots of other examples of how you might want to lay out an analytics team and analytics workflow. Whatever you want to do, one of the really key pitfalls of most organizations is preparing this based on who is available at the time. So people will say, oh, we have Jill over here. Jill's really great with data. She knows how to crunch all the numbers, prepare everything the way we need it. And then we have Bob. And Bob builds really cool visualizations. He can make things interactive. We need Bob as part of our team. And that's important. We want to fill those roles with people who are right for the position. But we also have to plan for what happens when Jill wins the lottery. So what are we going to do to help bring on the next community of practice lead? Or how do we bring on the next business lead and help them understand what we're trying to drive? It's important we have some standard training and practice so that when we bring new folks into these roles, that they can get onboarded quickly, they get onboarded in a standard way, and it's important for you as you build these out that these become repeatable processes for you because there's going to be a new line of business or a new use case. And when we talked about it can't be one individual trying to solve all of these problems, having a repeatable work stream, having repeatable roles allows you to empower others within your organization to achieve their own analytic strategy by repeating what has been successful for you. So again, Tableau's Blueprint Planner is a great resource to help get some thoughts started on where you want to begin this journey for yourself. It's going to help you identify who you think your executive sponsor should be, start defining who that data team is, and maybe more importantly, start thinking about your broader audience. Who's going to consume these analytics? So in summary, we want to make sure we enlist an executive sponsor. Find that individual who is going to be able to bring us some formal process and make sure the team is resourced appropriately. We want to start specifying how users are going to interact with data. We need to know everyone's role in the analytics process so it doesn't become do-it-yourself. And then start assigning those roles, fill any key positions and gaps that you have. So when we talk about those that are winning, We have individuals that understand how they contribute to an analytics process. And a great example of this, I had the opportunity to work with a customer who does an analytics day once a year. They're a large insurance company, one of the top insurance companies in North America. And I had the opportunity to attend their analytics day, which is opened by their chief data officer, who starts the day by announcing to the company that they are no longer an insurance company, they are a data company that sells insurance. Now you might think that's trite, that's something easy to say, but think about the powerful message that gives to people in that audience. You know, from this day forward, we are a data company first, and that's how we're going to proceed. So when people hear that message from an executive sponsor, they know that there's commitment, they know that there's passion to this analytics journey. And then they spend the rest of the day bringing up different teams from different lines of business, whether it's HR or claims or their sales team, whoever it might be, they bring up all these individuals that share what they built to achieve a business goal. They share the tools that they use, the data that they used. The team members come up and individually present their roles. And they have hundreds of people filling an auditorium who are then able to see what's working. They can understand how they might leverage the data and existing tools that are out there. They see the roles in use and how they can apply them to their line of business. And they make some powerful connections and be able to network internally and find internal solutions. Now, for those organizations that are still learning on this path, we still have all those users taking a DIY approach to data. So this is where we start seeing shadow IT, and we see little local data marts. This is where you hear the question, how do I export this to Excel? So this is what we want to avoid. All right, we're going to get on to the run. So now that we've talked about our strategy, we have some idea what it is we're trying to achieve. We've assembled that team that is going to help us. Some of the things that we want to build as specific use cases should start to become clear. And it's important to remember that this is going to be a journey. Do not think for a minute that to be successful with Tableau, you have to replace your entire reporting catalog in 90 days. Our most successful customers start with a single use case, and they build upon that. They build a strong foundation and continue to expand. So for you, that might mean that you want people to have more access to explore data and be able to ask and answer their own questions. So maybe your starting point is creating a great certified data source with really rich metadata that allows people to feel confident in what they're building as they explore along the way. Or maybe you have some specific use cases. You want to understand packages that are taking too long to ship, or identify high-value customers, or do some other type of outlier analysis. So in these situations, I encourage you and your teams to build some really focused analytics. Highlight just those things for individuals so it's clear what you want them to focus on. Whatever it is, pick a problem, solve it, keep solving it, and then pick the new problem. And that's how you evolve from a starter use case to a Tableau data rockstar. Whatever you do, you need to continue to focus on that target. So think about some of those things that you're trying to accomplish and some of the specific issues that you're trying to solve. As you start to focus on the right platforms and what you need, remember, you want to keep users' attention in their flow as part of every day. I talked to you a little bit about that retailer that created a visualization for their store managers that was a layout of their store. That's something that they can use as part of their everyday lives that doesn't break them from their flow of analytics. It doesn't force them to take their eyes off the road and look down at the dashboard. They're keeping focused on what they're doing as part of their everyday job. And I encourage you to keep that same kind of focus for all of the users that you're helping build analytics for. And I'm sure there's at least one of you in the room today who's saying, Jim, my organization isn't ready for that. We have people who deal with data, and they're called analysts. And then we have everyone else, and they're called the people who bother me. But I assure you, they're ready for data. In today's environment, we use data and data visualizations to make all kinds of decisions in our lives. We decide where we're going to eat. We decide what we're going to buy. We decide how often we get out of our chair based on data and data visualizations. In the age of big data, we are all data consumers, but we do it in a seamless way because we found ways to consume it in bite-sized chunks that fit naturally into our lives. And when you think about the way we use data in the workplace, it's really the outlier. That's the only time where we look at data as columns of numbers that go 50 wide and 20 deep across 29 different tabs. Really, it's the outlier. People are hungry for data, and if we deliver it to them in a way that fits with their everyday role and fits with what they do, they would love to consume it. And part of what we need to do to continue to be successful at this is iterate and refine. We need to be willing to go out and ask those users, what's working for you today in analytics? What's not working so well? What can we do better? And continue to modernize. The challenge is traditional BI taught us that we were only going to get one chance to build it. That we had to gather all the requirements and build it one time, and we were left with whatever the result was. But with modern BI, it gives us the opportunity to engage with our customers, our data consumers, continue to build and iterate for them, to sharpen that axe so that we all get better at the task in front of us of cutting down the tree. So start thinking about some of those folks from whom you could receive feedback, some of the folks that use your analytics every day that could help you get sharper in the way you deploy analytics to your organization. So think about how you get feedback from them today and how you might improve that in the future. So one more time with the Blueprint Planner here. Blueprint Planner has great thought-starting, provocative questions to help you think about those specific objectives, the individual actions you want users to take. It's going to help you identify your audience, who's going to consume all of this information, and then from there, start planning the right type of visualization. So let's sum up. First, we want to understand the projects that are going to have the largest impact. Let's focus on the most impactful use cases. And then design our solutions to fit that purpose. Resist that scope creep. Resist the urge to start packing too much into it. And then seek feedback. Don't be afraid to ask questions and iterate as you need. And when I talk about folks that are winning here, they have a solution in place, and there's some definitive business objectives being achieved. And the last time that we had Tableau Conference here in this building, I had the good fortune to attend a session with our Tableau Foundation. And they were inviting up some different speakers from some of our charitable partners who have done great things with analytics. And one of them was a food bank. And it's a really misunderstood fact, the level of food insecurity that exists in the United States. I guarantee that every single one of you have families in your own hometowns and neighborhoods that struggle to put food on the table every day. And this food bank, obviously, their goal is to increase donations so that they're able to feed more families. And they found a really easy gap. The partners the individuals that went and worked out with their partners, retailers, manufacturers, didn't really have any idea of what good looked like. They didn't know how much their counterparts were pulling in donations. They didn't know what an average donation amount was. So this food bank created one very simple visualization where they just provided a list of what other people were doing and visualized everyone's progress. They tried to gamify the process of bringing in collections. They created some constructive competition. And what they found is all of those folks that went out and worked with their donating partners were able to increase the amount of donations by about 20% thanks to one visualization. One visualization means 20% fewer families have to worry about putting food on a table. And that's a powerful data-driven decision. And our organizations that are still learning, well, we often hear, hey, we're saving time. The monthly report only takes an hour, and it used to take 5 hours. And that's great. But is that really what we're trying to achieve in the business? We want you to be more productive. But really, being data-driven means achieving your business goals. So let's wrap up what we talked about here today. So first, as you update your analytics strategy, we want to make sure that we define that vision and strategy for analytics based on what you're trying to achieve in your business. And then we need to make sure that we are clear on who is going to help us get there. Who are the individuals that are going to take action to help us achieve our objectives? And then lastly, start discovering and prioritizing those use cases. Fit the actions to the purpose of those folks' day-to-day jobs. And please remember, you don't have to do it all at one time. It is a journey. So again, I encourage you to go out and take a look at Tableau Blueprint. You can go out to tableau.com/blueprint. The planner that I referenced several times is available there, along with other great resources, again, that we have accumulated based on the success of all of our customers. It's a great place to go and answer some questions about how others are doing things really well with Tableau. And also, the slide that didn't make the deck for the presentation today. Anyone who wants to get started on your Tableau Blueprint journey while you're here this week, if you haven't done so, there's a Blueprint booth in Data Village. You can start down there and take the data assessment, understand where you are as an organization, the things that you are doing really well, and places where you might want to continue to invest. And it also lets you chart your own Tableau Blueprint. By looking at some of our new role-based e-learning paths, you can even go down there and earn your own role-based badges, which are great. We have physical badges for your name tags this week, as well as virtual badges you can use on things like your LinkedIn profile or Twitter or Facebook. So a great place to start building out your own personal Tableau Blueprint as well. Now, I will ask you to rate the session. Please log into your app. I'm going to share with you a funny story. So I told you my Tableau journey, I told you my Tableau story here in triathlon form. Do we have any other triathletes in the room? Oh, okay, one, two, okay, a handful. So I did this presentation yesterday, and when I said I was a triathlete, someone whooped in the back of the room, and I thought, oh, great, a fellow triathlete. And he came up after the session to give me very direct feedback. He happened to be employed by USA Triathlon, the sport's governing body. And he came up to inform me all of the things in my presentation that do not conform to triathlon rules and regulations. So if you are one of those members, I'm well aware that those aren't, they're not all perfect. So thank you for that. Please provide any other feedback you'd like to on the app. With that, I say thank you. I welcome any questions that you might have.